I'll be talking about another software, quite like the last one I spoke about, the MIDI harmonizer. This is an external piece of software that goes between the incoming signal from MIDI Guitar to your DAW. I'm going to use MIDI Guitar here in standalone mode to receive sort of the first signal from incoming from my audio interface, then going over to the software I'm about to talk about, and then into the DAW, Ableton in this case. And the software I'm interested in here is called Divisimate. It splits up your incoming MIDI from whatever controller you're using. I'm going to be talking about how to use MIDI Guitar in this context. So first of all, as soon as you're on the Divisimate page, on the support tab here, you have something called templates, and you should go to templates, and you have the universal templates. This one is available for Cubase, for Logic Pro, Studio One, Digital Performer, Reaper, and Ableton Live. So I got myself the one for Ableton Live here and loaded it in Ableton, and this is what it looks like when you get it. So it's just the names of the instruments. It's up to you to fill those seats yourself with the instruments you have at your disposal in your library. And I chose a mix of instruments. Since I don't have any library containing all these instruments, I took most of them from my Wallander virtual instrument library. It's quite an old one, but it's perfect for this since it's small, it's compact, and it reacts really well to real-time playing. And after that, it's the Spitfire Discovery, I think it's called. So I'll have everything in the description as usual. I have the timpani and harp, so from that, and then some strings. I chose my trusty Swam strings for that, but this is just to fill the seats in this virtual orchestra. So to begin with, these have nothing on them. These are just names, and it's just a template. If I were to click on this one, you see there's nothing here really. So I'm going to go into a preloaded version I have here. So this is my wee template to begin with. And this is for you to see exactly how long this stuff takes to load. In this case, how little time actually it takes to load. You see that it's loaded now. So if I go into Piccolo here, I have my wee orchestra here, and I have a little piccolo flute here. Now, I don't have any notes in yet, since I don't have either of MIDI Guitar 2 opened or Divisimate. Divisimate I have opened. I should actually close that so you see in what order you should do stuff. So now you see here, these are all grayed out now, the arming of the tracks in Ableton, since there's no MIDI input for them to play. So I'm going to go from my audio interface straight into the MIDI Guitar 2 software. Set this to band range 2. Check. Yep, we have audio in, and then I can open my Divisimate software. It should ask for input devices. But I'm going into settings to input devices, and I'm choosing partly a breath controller, and I'm choosing my MIDI guitar out. And that would be the MIDI guitar out from the standalone version of my MIDI Guitar 2 software here. So both of these are in standalone mode outside of Ableton. Ableton is just a container for the orchestra. I've set all of these instruments to work with my breath controller, so that's why I'm hanging on to this one. Now, you don't have anything in yet, since you see here that there are no sort of lines here representing the paths between the chords that you can play and what they are supposed to trigger, the instruments they are triggering. But I'm going to start with, these are two oboes, for instance. It's gonna look like this. 4 and 5 seems to be oboe 1 and 2. If you look carefully now while I'm playing, you see that it seems like it's only one that is being activated first. And it says top down here. So it should, as long as I'm only playing one note melodies or one note at a time, it's only gonna be this one that's activated or sounding. As soon as I'm playing 2, you're gonna see this one as well. I can change the order of these two, but I'm going to use something bigger for that, so it's easier for you to see, perhaps. If we go to something like, we have a brass choir here, for instance. If you see, they have now the alternative fill voices. Let's see what happens. It would seem that all instruments play at the same time. So if I'm choosing now top down here instead, it should go from the first one so as long as I only have one note, it's this one. As soon as it's an interval of any kind, you at least add this one, and this is the third to be added for any chord with 3 notes. And if I succeed in playing 4 notes at a time with the MIDI Guitar 2 software, not always that easy, but from a performance perspective, this is also a great piece of software, since you can change the instrumentation on the fly, like for trumpets. You saw me do that in the beginning with some of the instruments here. So it perhaps seems simple on the face of it, but it's fantastically useful as a tool for creating, like for jotting down your ideas, sketching with an orchestra with your instrument of choice, that is a guitar. It differs for me extremely much to sit with a piano that I'm not that comfortable with, instead of a guitar that the ideas flow in a different way. And especially with things like vibrato. If I'm going to do a fast sketch in Ableton or in Logic, and I at least want to infuse some sort of emotion or some sort of expressivity and into that expression, I think that vibrato is one of the more important things for me to get into the music and not having to add afterward. But if you have like a guitar and a breath controller or some sort of expression controller, it could be a pedal or whatever. Those two things, I think vibrato and the expression control is just enough to at least make powerful sketches and make your music come to life. Let's start with this, and I'll walk you through a few of those presets on the fly, so you hear partly how easy it is to play with the instrument while changing those presets. You've seen how easy it is to set up. It really doesn't take that much, and it's also very easy to use once you have used their template and loaded all your instruments in it. The thing that takes time is to set up the instruments correctly so that it responds to your breath controller if you want one, or your expression pedal, perhaps levels and stuff like that. From any other perspective, this is a fantastic piece of software to use for MIDI guitarists that want to have an orchestra at your hands. As always, it's only your imagination that stops you from doing something really masterful with this kind of software. Try it out if you have the chance.